Writing, citing, and referencing. Part 1. Writing. I thought I'd begin by examining some myths associated with writing. 1. People enjoy reading reports and documents. The reason people read reports and documents is to gain insights and to access relevant information. 2. Quantity equals quality and/or importance. On the contrary, a successful writer conveys relevant information succinctly. 3. Give every fact and let the reader decide for themselves. Again, a successful writer synthesizes and integrates information for the benefit of the reader. And 4. Writing requires special English. Absolutely not. Plain, simple English is perfectly acceptable. On this slide, you'll see a number of aims typically associated with writing documents. Underpinning all of them, at some level, is the aim to inform. With that in mind, what does it mean to write well? Helen Sword conducted a study across a number of different academic disciplines, and she found the most effective and engaging academic writers are those who express complex ideas clearly and succinctly, and who demonstrate care for their readers. For those of you who are seeking employment in the near future, employers value writing as a critical skill. A recent study sought to identify those qualities employers found most important in hiring recent graduates. The ability to communicate effectively, orally and in writing, is seen as being of paramount importance. So what are the qualities associated with good writing? Well, a document should be comprehensible to everyone, uses little or no jargon. It conveys insights and useful information. And as a writer, you seek to inform, not to impress. So simplify and keep to the essentials. Present facts and analysis. Justify to support assertions by referring to appropriate citations and references. Specify to avoid generalizations. So if you were to write that advertising is not useful, you need to specify why, and in this context, what is the support for this statement. Avail of headings and subheadings so that readers may follow the flow of your logic. Seek consistency in style. I thought I'd share with you what some MSc students have identified as criteria essential to writing well. On the left, you can see a number of criteria identified by the class of 2011, and on the right, the criteria identified by the class of 2010. And although they express them differently, they are largely comparable. Also comparable is the way that they have ranked and weighted these criteria, with structure being the most important, followed by content and information, and subsequently style. So what tips can I give you to enhance readability of your documents? In academic documents, it's the norm to use the third person, so avoid using personal pronouns, such as I, you, and we. Eliminate orphan sentences or single-sentence paragraphs. Join these single-sentence paragraphs with paragraphs sharing similar meanings. Be clear about the tense. Unless you're referring to historical data, the present tense is typically preferable. Use the active rather than the passive tense. For example, the active construction, the managers interviewed the candidates, is preferable to the passive construction, the candidates were interviewed by the managers. Qualify generalized statements. For example, if you state that advertising is not useful, be sure to specify why this is the case, particularly in this context, and what support you have for this statement. Use a good dictionary and a grammar guide. At the end of this video, there are several texts which I suggest may be useful in writing. Personally, I'm a fan of dictionary.com. I find it an invaluable online source. Avail of the spelling and grammar checks in your software. Cite and reference all sources, including online sources. Interpret information. Spend time in developing the conclusion. If you have the luxury to set aside the document for a period, come back to the conclusion and ensure that it has the appropriate impact. Proofread carefully for zero defects. Seek word economy through editing. Bear in mind, less is more. And with that point in mind, how can you reduce verbosity in your documents? My suggestion is to eliminate trite phrases. You'll see a number of them coming up on your screen. My view is that these phrases add little meaning or value to your writing. So unclutter your writing and your document and eliminate them altogether. So what else can you do to enhance clarity? In using the word this, you often need to qualify to what you're referring. For example, this is useful is a vague statement, but you can qualify it and make it much clearer by stating this idea is useful, this project is useful, this finding is useful. In qualifying, it means that the reader doesn't have to go back to the previous sentences to figure out to what you're referring. Another suggestion is to eliminate the word that where appropriate. For example, in this sentence, that is not necessary for the meaning. They believe this idea is useful is perfectly acceptable. Replace very with a more compelling synonym. For example, exceedingly, exceptionally, especially. Very is banal. Find something much more interesting. Believe is more persuasive than feel. Aim is more persuasive than hope. Beliefs and aims are probably much more appropriate for academic writing than feelings and hope. There's a number of devices you should use sparingly. Using etc. too frequently indicates a lazy writer. Instead of e.g., why not use for example, or instead of i.e., that is. With respect to contractions, my suggestion is to eliminate them altogether. Not only is it more formal, but you're less likely to confuse it'(s) with its. Finally, dashes and exclamation marks should be used sparingly. I'll leave you with a number of texts that may be useful in enhancing your writing. These texts are available in the library and in the bookstore. Good luck, and I'll see you in Part 2, Acknowledgement.